In conclusion, I think there are important forces at work contextually to which some faithful Christians are responding when putting forth intelligent design, namely scientific materialism and its reductionist tendencies, and the challenge of making truth claims in an age where truth is equated with scientific truth. We need to understand what is at stake for those who urge such a view so urgently. Nevertheless, I believe this particular response is misguided and ends up doing more harm than good with respect to the viability of belief in God in our day. It's not good science, and it strains credibility when it claims to be. Furthermore, when it seeks to enlist science to impose religious teachings in public schools, it engenders an understandable resentment and resistance in the wider society. And it's not good theology. It does not yield a religiously viable vision of God. It yields instead a designer who is not the creator God of Christian faith, not a God worthy of worship. The designer God compromises freedom and exacerbates the problem of evil. A case might even be made that evolutionary theory is more compatible with Christian faith than is intelligent design. But that would be another paper for another day. Thank you.
So I'm very happy to have my good friend Ken Miller here tonight. Ken, Mike is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Carl, for that generous introduction. I'm still trying to make sense of this significant cultural figure nonsense that you just sort of imploded on everyone. I want to talk a little bit about the controversy in America today. And having the luxury of following Anna Case Winters, I'm going to leave the theology to her, or I have already left the theology to her, and I want to focus on the nature of the scientific argument that sort of swirls around intelligent design. As Carl mentioned, I'm a cell biologist. I work on biological membranes. This is a picture of me in my messy laboratory in Providence, and that cover picture of the journal Cell represents some of my research. It was research on the translocon channel, which is the channel through which proteins enter the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And my laboratory, I'm proud to say, was the very first laboratory to visualize this channel through the electron microscope in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. If you're a biology student, you know what I just said. And if you're not, I want to assure you I spent some time in thought and reflection, and I've come to the conclusion that a person can lead a rich and fulfilling life without knowing what the rough endoplasmic reticulum is. So don't worry about that too much. I notice we have a few young people in the room. I'm always nervous when I see young people because I realize that you may already know me and you may not like me. And the reason for that is if you used any of these textbooks when you were in high school, I wrote them and you may already have a grudge against me. One of my daughters who did not use my textbook actually helped me get my writing style down to the level of a 14 or 15-year-old. Lauren actually went on to become a wildlife biologist who works for Mass Audubon. My other daughter, Tracy, did have to suffer the indignity of using her old man's textbook in high school biology, and Tracy is the daughter whom I do not speak because she became a history teacher. Carl was also kind enough to mention Finding Darwin's God, a scientist's search for common ground between God and evolution, which has just come out in a new edition just a couple of months ago, and I thank him very much for that. We live in particularly interesting times. And I spoke to many of the people in this room this morning, and I'm going to retread some of that territory, but not all of it. And I thought of a different way than I did this morning to characterize what I mean by interesting times. This is a snapshot of the Republican presidential debate, which took place only a few weeks ago. And as some of you may remember, a questioner during the debate asked the people up there, I'm curious, is there anybody on the stage that doesn't believe in evolution? And as you may know, 3 hands went up. There they are, you can just barely see them. And they were Sam Brownback, Mike Huckabee, and Tom Tancredo. And several of these individuals afterwards decided to elaborate on this. And if you might wonder why would candidates in this particular party feel obliged to say they reject evolution, in a sense they were playing to the base. Because it turns out that public opinion surveys within the United States show a very close correlation between party affiliation and acceptance or rejection of evolution. By a margin of more than 2 to 1, registered Republicans reject evolution. Registered Democrats, they're not unanimous in their support of evolution, but they tend to accept it. And interestingly, independents turn out to be more accepting of evolution than registered Democrats do, and you can make of that what you will. One of the things that I was surprised about afterwards is that Huckabee went to some lengths to explain the reason he raised his hand. And here's Governor Huckabee, and he's explaining this. And one remark in particular really caught my eye. And he said, you know, a person either believes that God created the process, or it was an accident and it happened on its own. And then he said, if anybody wants to believe that they are the descendants of a primate, they are certainly welcome to do so. And I thought about that, and I don't know if I'll ever get to meet Governor Huckabee. I admire him for many reasons. I think he's really quite an able politician, and he did wonderful things for his state during his terms as governor. But when he said he's not sure he wants to be a descendant of a primate, I'm terribly sorry to tell Governor Huckabee this, but he is a primate. That's simply the way our species is classified, and he can't do anything about that. So he's stuck with being a primate, whether he wants to be or not. Why is it that evolution is under attack? Is it because it's a shaky scientific theory? And the answer is, I don't think so. This is the cover of an anti-evolution booklet published by the largest anti-evolution organization in the United States, which is Answers in Genesis. It's headed by Ken Ham. And these are the guys who have just opened the Creation Museum in Kentucky. So this is not a fringe group. This is mainstream anti-evolutionism. Why do they say that evolution is not to be trusted? Well, it's not because it's a shaky scientific theory. They depict it as the rock-solid foundation of everything that is wrong with society. Lawlessness, homosexuality, pornography, and abortion, they tell us, and this is from their website, are all built around the theory of evolution. Now, if that's not graphic enough for you, here's another graphic from the same folks depicting what they think is going on in our country today, which is a cultural war between evolution and creation. Now, look very closely here. The name of the founder of evolution is depicted there. You can see it right there, and that's not Darwin's name. That's somebody else's name. Evolution, it flies the flag of humanism. It's responsible for divorce, homosexuality, pornography, abortion, racism, whereas creation flies the flag of Christianity. Those are serious stakes for anyone who's seriously interested in faith, and it's one of the reasons why evolution comes under fire.